Hello, and this is Delia again, and I'm reading the Vampire Diaries, The Struggle. And this is chapter 9, part 2, I believe. Okay, we're over here. Let's see, Stephen kept his voice low just the same. You remember what I told? Okay, let's see. No, we're not on that. It's Vervain, said Stephen sometime later, and he and Elena were sitting at the kitchen table through the open doorway. Matt could be seen stretched out on the family room sofa, snoring gently. He'd flopped there after eating 3 bowls of cereal. Aunt Judith, Bonnie, and Margaret were still upstairs asleep, but Stephen kept his voice low just the same. You remember what I told you about it, he said. You said it helps keep your mind clear, even when someone's using power to influence you, right? Elena was proud of how steady her voice was. Right, and that's one of the things Damon might try. He can use the power of his mind even from a distance, and he can do it whether you're awake or asleep. Tears filled Elena's eyes, and she looked down to hide them, gazing at the long, slender stems with the dried remains of tiny lilac flowers at the very tips. Asleep, she said, afraid that this time her voice was not as steady. Yes, he could influence you to come out of the house, say, or to let him in, but the vervain should prevent that. Stephen sounded tired but satisfied with himself. Oh, Stephen, if you only knew, Elena thought. That gift had come one night too late. In spite of all her efforts, a tear fell, dripping onto the long green leaves. Elena! He sounded startled. What is it? Tell me. He was trying to look into her face, but she bowed her head, pressing it into his shoulder. He put his arms around her, not trying to force her up again. Tell me, he repeated softly. This was the moment she was ever going to tell him. It should be now. Her throat felt burned and swollen, and she wanted to let all the words inside pour out. But she couldn't, no matter what. I won't let them fight over me, she thought. It's just that I was worried about you, she managed. I didn't know where you'd gone and when you were coming back. Well, I should have told you, but that's all. There's nothing else upsetting you. That's all. Now she would have to swear to Bonnie's secrecy about the crow. Why did one lie always lead to another? What should we do with the vervain, she asked, sitting back. I'll show you tonight. Once I've extracted the oil from the seeds, you can rub it into your skin or add it to a bath. And you can make the dried leaves into a sachet and carry it with you, or put it under your pillow at night. I better give them to Bonnie and Meredith, too. They'll need protection. He nodded. For now. He broke off a sprig and placed it in her hand. Just take this to school with you. I'm going back to the boarding house to extract the oil. He paused a moment and then spoke. Elena? Yes. I thought it would do you good. I'd leave. I wouldn't expose you to Damon. But I don't think he'd follow me if I went. Not anymore. I think he might stay because of you. Don't even think about leaving, she said fiercely, looking up at him. Stephen, that's the one thing I couldn't stand. Promise you won't. Promise me. Okay, and I'll stop there, and I'll continue.